divided by x minus 10. This time, I want you to find more than just the vertical asymptotes and the horizontal asymptotes. I also want you to find the x-intercepts. All right, you can get to work. Minus 10 equals 0. So what does that tell me about my vertical asymptotes? There are none. By the way, I'm pretty sure you can type none into WebWord. Please spell it correctly. Laugh, I've misspelled it, so I'm a little too quick on the ends. So I'm N-N-O-E. Yeah, it doesn't work well. So there's no vertical asymptote. What about horizontal asymptotes? Well, what was I doing for horizontal asymptotes? I said, let's do, as x approaches infinity, what becomes really important in our function? Well, f of x in the numerator, what's going to make the big deal? Just the x squared. Obviously, the 10 is going to be diddly squat compared to infinity. Turns out, 9 times infinity is nothing compared to infinity times infinity. Right? Because 9 is a pretty small number. 9 infinities and infinities, forget it. So only the x squared is important up here. What about in my denominator? What's going to be important? X. So as x approaches infinity, my function starts to look like this. That's what's important. So what does that simplify to? X. Now, as x is getting really big, where is this function going? It's getting what? Really big. Is that a horizontal line? No. If it's not approaching a horizontal line, and your horizontal lines are going to have to be y equals a number, so either a number that you get or 0 because it's getting really small, then you can say this has no horizontal asymptotes. What about finding my x-intercepts? How do I do that? Set y equal to 0. 0 equals x squared minus 9x minus 10. Yeah? Over x minus 10. And then? Okay. I can now cross multiply, so I will have what on, if I do 0 times x minus 10, I get 0. And if I do 1 times x squared minus 9x minus 10, I get that. X squared minus 9x minus 10. Now I'm ready to factor. If you see that it factors, if you don't, you can use your quadratic formula. I get x minus 10 times x plus 1. So this gives me x minus 10 equals 0. So x equals 10. This gives me x plus 1 equals 0. So x equals negative 1. Both okay? No. What's wrong with one of them? Equals 0. 10. What's wrong with the 10? It makes my denominator 0, and anything that makes my denominator 0 is not in my domain. So this is no good. Is my negative 1 okay? Yeah. Plug it in. Negative 1 minus 10 is not 0. So my 1x intercept is negative 1 comma 0.
I factored it in the very beginning of the problem, and I just used that for the entire
Not a problem.
thing. Is that okay?
The only problem you might run into is when I ask you to find the domain, because when you factored it, if you find the domain of what you factored and canceled, you are going to lose your denominator.
Okay.
So you have to calculate the domain before you cancel out everything with the denominator.
Okay.
Once you've done that, then your factored version will work just fine for finding everything else.